There's a difference between identity and identification, and fact and fiction, and beliefs and reality. And somehow this is all getting a little bit mixed up in the current trans narrative. First of all, I want to say that I understand what it's like to have gender dysphoria. I was a trans child. I know what it's like to believe that you were born in the wrong body. So that's not what's at issue. But what is at issue is the idea that how we self-identify can actually somehow change who we really are. For example, if I wanted to identify as a veteran, according to the trans narrative, I should be able to do that. I could say I've watched a lot of war movies. When I was a child, Vietnam was going on, and I have a lot of traumatic memories watching TV and hearing stories. I read The Guns They Carry, which was a pretty powerful book, and saw Apocalypse Now. And so all those experiences have led me to feel like I am actually a veteran, and therefore should be able to have access to all the benefits of being a veteran. Now, obviously that's absurd, but it's not any more absurd than a man who was born a biological male saying he's a female and should be able to have access to female spaces. It's pretty much the same thing. And so here's what it is. When someone has gender dysphoria, their self-identity is wrong in a very similar way to the way an anorexic believes she's fat. The trans person believes they were born in the wrong body. Now, we shouldn't condemn or judge the trans person because they have a legitimate difficulty in life. They have a dysfunctional way of thinking that's going to make it really difficult for them. But we also shouldn't affirm that, because we don't affirm things that aren't true. In the same way that nobody would say, well, if you identify as a veteran, if you really believe that you are a veteran, if in your heart you know what it's like to be a veteran, even though you haven't really been a veteran, we're going to have to acknowledge that you are a veteran because that's how you self-identify. Or I could say that I've always identified as a Native American Indian because as a kid I was in a number of plays and productions where I played the American Indian, and so I sort of feel like I was born in the wrong body, and really I'm an American Indian and should be treated as such. I should be able to identify as such. I should be able to get scholarships specifically for Native Americans because I identify as such, because I believe that I was born in a white body. I should have been born in a Native American body. Or I could say that I'm really over 65 and I should be eligible for Social Security, even though I'm really not. Even though my birth certificate says one thing, I identify as an older person. I've had joint problems, I've had C. difficile, I've had a lot of medical problems. So even though chronologically I'm a certain age, I really internally identify as someone who's older, and therefore should be able to get the benefits of Social Security for someone who's over 65 or over 67, whatever the age is now. And that's why it's problematic, because there's a difference between identifying as something and actual being something. And for whatever reason, something I really don't understand, the trans movement is trying to say that a man who identifies as a woman is a woman, rather than embracing the fact that they're transgender. And I'm not sure what fuels this. I think it might be an internalized hatred for mental illness. They're trying to say, no, this isn't a mental dysfunction. I was born in the wrong body. Therefore, it's not up here. It's actually something wrong with my body. And I feel like this is actually further stigmatizing mental illness, because rather than admitting that they have a mental dysfunction, they're so concerned about that they're trying to alter reality and insist that a trans woman is a woman. They even say things like a trans woman's penis is a female penis. They say things like a trans woman can have her menstrual periods, even though that's biologically untrue. And for whatever reason, as a society, we are being so compassionate and tolerant that we're letting this narrative slip by. And initially it might not seem dangerous, but it is. Because if we start saying that people can be something that they are inherently, provably not, then anybody can identify as anything, and we have to accept that. And that becomes problematic. As I said, I can identify as a Native American veteran, and and male and over 65. And there's no reason that that's any more extreme or ludicrous or unfactual than the a male who identifies as a woman saying he's actually a biologically woman. He's actually a woman. He should be treated as a woman. And this brings about some important issues, because gender dysphoria is a real thing. It's a real mental health issue. It's something that we need to address. But we don't address mental health issues by affirming someone's delusional thinking. We address it by helping them to sort through their feelings of discontent within themselves. And we have good therapies that can do this. So it's not that people who are saying, wait a minute, gender identity is not something that we should protect. It's not that those are uncompassionate people. Those that I've run into have been incredibly compassionate. It's that it's important to discern the difference between an identity, which is a mental way of thinking about yourself, versus fact, because the two can be very different. And traditionally, we've always kind of been on the lookout for it. We don't let someone say they're a doctor if they're not a doctor. We don't let someone say they're a lawyer if they're not a lawyer. We don't let someone say that they're black if they're not black. We've always had these rules, and for some reason we're allowing these rules to change, and we're allowing people to perpetrate fictitious identities in a way that's damaging to our society. So I think it's really important for us to remember that there's a huge difference between how someone thinks of themselves and how they really are.